Oh, right, anything on there, sister?
Push the thing up on the side, Elizabeth.
Right here. Who shuts it off?
Perfect. Welcome everyone to the March 20th meeting of the Newmarket School Board. Tonight is the first meeting of the board since the election, so the first order of business after the Pledge of Allegiance will be the board's organization. But we'll start, if you'll join me with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I probably should say for the record that I'm Meredith Nadeau, superintendent here in Newmarket. And we will begin by calling for nominations for the position of school board chair.
I nominate Kim Shelton as school board chair.
I second it.
Nomination for Kim Shelton, moved and seconded. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Elizabeth McKinney for vice chair.
Second.
We have a nomination for Kim Shelton for chair of the Newmarket School Board. Is there any discussion?
I appreciate the nomination and will work my hardest to do the best for the board and for the community.
We will move the vote. All those in favor of Kimberly Shelton for the position of school board chair?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a nomination for Elizabeth McKinney for position of vice chair of the school board. Any discussion?
I'd also like to make a nomination for Mike Kennison for vice chair.
Is there a second?
Can I second a second nomination, since I seconded the first?
You cannot.
Didn't think so.
Okay, the nomination fails. So the motion on the floor is for Elizabeth McKinney for the position of vice chair. Any discussion on the motion?
I couldn't be happier.
Motion for Elizabeth McKinney for the position of vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And so, if I can find it, Shelton, I hand the gavel to you, and you get the hot seat.
All right. I can stay here for tonight. Or should I come there?
I think you should be right here.
I will come right
In
there
the thick
then.
of things. Or maybe we can all slide over
Sure.
a little.
Move down one.
We'll just slide down.
Or have Mike come over here?
Slide down.
Chairs.
Musical chairs.
Yes, indeed. All right, if we look at the agenda, the first yes, Meredith?
So before you move on, two things. I have for each board member a list of the board committees. We don't need to take those nominations tonight, but board members should consider which of those positions they would be interested in, and we can take those nominations and make those appointments at the next meeting.
Perfect.
And I should have noted at the outset that that Ingrid Alberg is unable to be here this evening, and she did have a long-standing prior commitment, so she looks forward to joining us for the next meeting.
Great. The next thing on the agenda is public comment. We'll leave the floor open for any public comment.
Amy Rossi, 15 Hillside Lane. I was expecting Ingrid to be here, so Ingrid, thank you so much for stepping up and joining the board, and a real hearty thank you to those of you that are here from before and all the hard work that you've done and that you have committed to continue to do. Thank you from our community.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? We'll proceed with closing public comment. And the next item, Meredith, would you like to take the lead on that? We had an exciting time last Tuesday. I'm sure everyone is aware. It was voting day in Newmarket, and the town resoundingly passed the warrant article for additions and renovations to the Newmarket Junior Senior High and the elementary school. And one of the major parts to making that happen was the Facilities Committee, who have served tirelessly for months and months to get us to that point and get something on the ballot that was good for the educational programming of Newmarket and also the finances and taxation realization for the town of Newmarket. And we wanted to just take a moment to recognize those individuals who shared their time and volunteered it with the town to get us to a positive vote last week.
So we have a number of Facilities Committee members here in the audience. Maybe they could all step to the podium, if they would be so kind.
Cheer.
Oh, yes. So Mike Kennison was the chair of that committee, and I've only been working with you for the last several months, really since July, but it's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and I am so proud of the work that you've accomplished, and clearly the community is also impressed by that work. Again, it's taken a long time, I think, to get here, but the committee that was assembled to do the work over the last couple of years has been tireless in its commitment and devotion. You've worked long hours. Some of you are there by default because it comes along with your responsibilities in the district, but we want to certainly recognize you for your efforts. And Mike, I don't know what you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I words can't describe it for me. I was humbled to serve with this group. And I've been in a lot of groups before, and I say unequivocally, this group was, in so many ways, one of the best, if not the best group I've ever dealt with. I was watching by chance recently Ken Burns' PBS special about Theodore Roosevelt, and it all ended with his quote about the arena. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that quote, but it goes something like, there are those who are critics and sit on the sidelines and critique public work, and then there are those who enter the arena. And he said it more colorfully, but you entered the arena. Back in 2014, we all know what that was about, and it was there were a lot of good people who were in that effort as well, but it was a contentious time, and it remained contentious after that. So, the first thing I'd like to thank you for is the fact that you stood up, you raised your hand in a contentious time. When we started this process back in 2015, if you can believe it, summer of 2015, we didn't know where it was going to go. And it was still very much contentious, very much up in the air. We were still looking at tuitioning and all that. So the fact that you just raised your hand and chose to enter that is pretty incredible. Second thing I'd like to recognize is the time commitment everybody put in. When we started this process, we were traveling on weekends and nights to all areas of the state, even up into Maine, to look at different schools and nights and weekends. I remember some pretty nice days there in September that we were on the road. So that's pretty incredible too. And I never had to ask. I never had to beg people to come. Everybody, anytime there was an ask, I can't remember once where somebody didn't step up. And that's pretty incredible too. Steadfastness is the other thing that comes to mind. There were several points along the way here where it got a little, let's say, challenging, right? When we were going through 6 months of the ed specs, and sometimes Chris is laughing because I don't know how many edits I had to that, and I was driving Chris crazy with that, but he never said a thing. We just kept plodding along, and guess what? That was the foundation for all that came after it, in a solid one that people really couldn't question. But there were a lot of times during that I'm sure we were sitting in those meetings 3 hours plus long and saying, good, when is this going to end? So steadfastness in that. Steadfastness when it came to the point where, we had to decide whether or not we were going to do sort of an interim warrant article and try to do the design work up front. We all used our collective judgment and I think good judgment in hindsight, that we didn't go ahead and do that. But that wasn't easy either, because there were some people that wanted things to move along. we were certainly all getting it as school board members, and I'm sure you were as community members, so to have the good judgment to stay tight on that. I won't leave you up here too much longer. You know, another point came when we got the original bids back, and I remember looks on people's faces, and that's another point where we all could have said, maybe this isn't for me. You know, maybe this is just 2014 all over again. But everybody, you know, stayed with it. They kept coming, and we worked it down to where we are today. Maybe the most important thing, at least to me anyways, I mean, we nailed the substance, I think, because we got a lot of bright minds here, and that, in some respects, was the easy part. But more importantly to me, we set the tone of respectfulness. The way we conducted the debate, you know, counseled others. We didn't, and I think that was instructive because to the community, because in each one of these forums that we did, the public forums, that was the tone. And I think that starts from the top down. And I commend you for that. And maybe most importantly is we got it right. I honestly think we got this right, you know? And that's at the end of the day, the biggest thing. We got it right for the kids. This will be a long-term deal, and we really moved the needle. So once again, there are a few people aren't here tonight. Eric Barterman, Ingrid Alberg couldn't make it tonight.
Sean Pine is at the elementary concert.
He's doing his job, and so I think I got everybody. But I really am humbled, and boy. I've never worked with such a great group, and I'll never forget it. Thank you very much.
We have a very small token that we just want to hand you briefly. You thought you were done.
I don't know. No, I don't. No, those are for the.
Gotcha. Mark Fillion, thank you.
Thank you. It's on recycled red specs.
Thank you.
Is it on recycled red specs?
Ann Ellis, thank you.
Put on your wall.
Elena Lyons, thank you.
My pleasure.
Chris,
Thank you.
as does yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to take a minute and just come down and thank you ourselves.
Aw.
Come on down too.
I don't want you to crush me.
Thank you very much. Good. Thank you.
Thanks for putting up
Good Thank you.
Good job.
It does.
It's a team effort. You guys are part of it.
Elena, thank you.
Groups working together.
We did.
Thank you.
No. Maybe on TV.
What's coming? It's up my alley.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Yeah, it was fun.
Really fun.
It was good. You got it done.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your sleep.
Thank you, guys.
Seems a little premature. I got one, you know.
Hey, I don't mind being, it's the only plaque I'm ever going to probably.
By the way, if I could, the only member of the facilities committee that wasn't up there is my fellow partner, Mike. And I don't think I have ever seen such leadership. You're right, Mike, it does start from the top. And you happen to be at the top this year without a superintendent. I would certainly not have the stamina and patience that you did to go through as much as you did. And thanks to your family.
Yes.
This was not a freebie at all. I couldn't let this pass without wishing you just so many thanks for making this happen.
A hearty second here. And I told the mushy stuff stop, so I can go to the next board meeting.
Not quite yet. We have a few more recognition moments to have. Meredith, would you like to take the lead on the next recognition?
Sure, but as I do that, I just want to say that, we had nice little paper certificates, but we will take the opportunity to include the names of these committee members on a plaque moving forward, and maybe they'll be lucky enough to get a brick from a demolished part of the old senior high, the boiler room. I think.
You can have the whole room.
There's all sorts of things that are in the way.
So I think Mr. Andruski was going to step up to help out with this next part, but we are going to recognize some regional winners of the State House Bicentennial Poster Contest.
Very exciting.
So let me just tell you a little bit about the contest. A part of my job as the curriculum and instruction director for Newmarket is we meet as a region with curriculum instructors from the region as well as superintendents. And we were given the task from the state for the bicentennial, what does the State House mean to you? And we were represented at the middle school level in Newmarket. We had 15 applicants. And in our region, which is the whole Seacoast region, we won first, second, and third place. So our kids will be represented in May. Their posters are actually going up in the hallway underneath from the Capitol building going back and forth. So they'll be displayed in May. And they have the possibility to go on and be the state winners, which will be judged in June. And if they are one of the members that are selected as the state winner, it will be kept there, and they will also have the possibility of another award in over the summer. So very, very happy for these middle school students. Ms. Blake stepped up as she always does. I told her about the contest, and she had her whole class do it. And these posters, I don't have them with me because they are all at the state, but were amazing. And the curriculum instructors, they're looking and going, oh my God, and they had such a hard time picking the three representatives, but they came from Newmarket. So, kudos to our school, kudos to the kids, because they put their heart and soul into it. So, would you like me to call out the names, or you want to call them? Okay. So,
I'll come down, Chris, 'cause I have
perfect.
a small token of our appreciation for their success.
So our third place winner was Kylie Maxwell.
Can you tell us on
Come on over to the mic.
a little bit about what your poster was about?
Right.
One detail.
Oh, microphone.
Or what New Hampshire means to you.
Can I just explain what it looks like so far?
Absolutely.
Well, it has on it so in the background it's almost like a sunset with birch trees, and then there's a hilly background to it, and it also has a hand-drawn bald eagle on it, and it has the gold peak of the State House.
We hope that when it comes back to you, we can have it come in so we can see your hard work. Congratulations again.
Stay right up here, Kylie. In second place was Zoe Perkins.
Congratulations, Zoe. And if you could describe yours in a little bit of detail, we'd appreciate that too.
Come right up to this mic.
In the background, I had written "We the People" over and over again, which took the longest time in the world. But in different handwritings, every 3 times, I switched up the handwriting and covered it in bronze watercolor to make it look more like an old piece of paper. And I traced two piles of books with a gavel on them and a balance scale, because to me, New Hampshire has always been a safe place for justice and learning. And I had a quote on there that said, "Education is the most powerful thing you can use to change the world." And I also had the State House on there because State House.
I was just going to say I didn't get a vote, but I personally really appreciated your quote, and if I'd had the opportunity to vote, you were in the front for me.
And then our first place winner was Karina Jones.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Karina. This is for describe yours, that would be great as well.
For my background, I had birch trees, and I used watercolor resistance in the colors blue and green, and I did like an ombre effect, and then I had the State House, and I don't remember what quote I used, but I did have a quote on it.
If you guys can stay up here for just a couple more minutes so the school board can come up and congratulate you for your hard work. These moments are the most precious for us when the students come in, so thank you for your parents bringing you in and celebrating with us. You guys can come on down. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
We're proud of you. Congratulations.
Enjoy the gift certificate.
So you guys are going to bring them in so we can see them sometime?
Yes, we'll get them when they
Great,
come back.
great, congratulations. Oh, that's okay, congratulations.
Thank you, family. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Will you sit down now? Yes.
And as a reward, you get to stay for the whole meeting.
Or you can leave whenever you deem appropriate. So, the board does not object.
No.
I'd like to move that.
We're going to make an amendment to the agenda and move up the 8th grade trip to be discussed before the student report. So if you'd like to come up, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. So my name is Lindsay Malsbury. I'm the 8th grade science teacher at the best middle school in the world, in my opinion. But anyway, so I'm here tonight to seek your approval for the 8th grade field trip. This year we have the privilege of taking our kids to the White Mountains to complete the Mountain Classroom program. We're planning to leave Wednesday morning, May 31st, and return early afternoon, Friday, June 2nd. This year's trip, we kind of geared the focus towards leadership and team building as it connects to several units. The units for the question are in both language arts and social studies. Unit questions addressed will be, how does a person learn who they are inside? How can we help people connect? How do our actions affect our worldviews? And how do we balance personal freedoms with equal protections? This will be done through journaling, hiking, reflection, and other outdoor activities as provided by the AMC team. It is our hope that students will find connections between their in-school curricula with the natural world around them. For the students staying home, we will offer a series of day-long activities that address the same focus as the AMC curriculum. The curriculum for those students staying home will be modeled on the outcomes given to us by AMC. So in this way, all students are accessing the personal growth activities. The cost per student of this trip is $150. Students are required to meet all behavioral expectations in order to attend. And we currently have 6 students in need of scholarships, which totals $1,200. With the help of the Newmarket PSO, we have already reached our goal for the scholarship students. And in addition, and thanks to the 8th grade parents, enough money was raised to add a second night to the trip. So we're really excited about that. So we hope to find your final approval here tonight and are excited to bring this opportunity to our students.
Does anyone have any questions about the program?
Do you feel as though you accommodated all the students that wanted to go, that couldn't afford it?
Absolutely. We offered 3 versions of scholarships. The maximum that a family had to pay was $50 for the 3 days, 2 nights. We've provided fundraising activities. Enough money was raised, so absolutely.
Any more questions?
So just note for the public that, board approval is required, even though this is an in-state trip because it involves an overnight stay.
Right.
I would just recognize, in fact, there was there was a penny sale over the weekend, too.
Yes, yes.
I mean, there's so much going on behind the scenes here where people are fundraising, and you know, there's been a lot of effort, and I'd just like to recognize those folks for doing that, and it sounds like a great trip.
Yes, we're very, very excited.
Yeah.
I like the personal liberties and freedom aspect of things. I think in the current world, those are very important ideas that we need to focus on, so I think it's beneficial for the 8th graders.
Thank you.
Would anyone, I seek a motion to approve this trip.
So moved.
I'll second.
On a motion from Mr. Zink, a second from Ms. McKinney to approve the 8th grade overnight field trip, I seek a vote. All those in favor, please, yes.
Just ask for any discussion.
Any
I'm
discussion?
not seeing any, but just.
No, I'm hoping that this does do the team building that we're hoping for, because they're going to be together for the next 4 years, and
That's what we
this
were
is one of the
thinking.
largest classes that we have going through right now, and it's a change for our small community, and I'd like to see them build together more. So that's my hope for this as well.
Ours as well, yes, definitely.
I kind of missed the numbers. So how many people are going?
So, of the kids, we only have 6 staying back, but the rest of the class, out of 85 kids, all the other students are attending. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Those are great numbers.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
to
only
reiterate
7% are staying.
what
staying
Mike
back.
said, thank you for all the people that have assisted us in providing scholarships to allow that number of students to go.
Absolutely.
And the community, because the penny sale was all community members, the rock and roll show, community members. If it were just the parents, we wouldn't have been able to do all that fundraising.
It's going to double the population of Bretton Woods for 2 days.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it.
No, thank you for your approval. Thanks.
Any more discussion? Let's move to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, moving back, Julia, would you like to proceed with giving your student report and the calendar for us?
Sure. So for sports, spring sports started practicing today officially. Softball's first game is Tuesday, April 11th, away against PCA. And baseball's first game is Monday, April 10th, away against PCA. Track has their first meet Thursday, April 6th at Moultonborough, which is a bit of a drive, but on Friday, March 24th, 6:30 to 9, the Newmarket class of 2019 will be putting on a concert event featuring a student-led band called The Vibe, and there will be other fun activities there. Drama Club's production of Meet the Creeps is April 7th at 7 o'clock, and the 8th at noon and 7. In the elementary school, the school book fair is March 24th through the 31st, and their progress reports go home Friday, April 7th.
I know there's a request for volunteers for the book fair, so if people want to do that, they can reach out to the elementary school to participate if they're on the approved volunteer list. Anything else for the calendar, Meredith? Anything you have?
For the calendar.
All right. Let's proceed with the...
Actually, one item for the calendar, but I can flow right into the superintendent's report.
Perfect.
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the elementary school is a presentation on talking to your kids about drugs. I think that is the actual title, or talking to your children about drugs.
And it's on the 22nd, right?
This Wednesday,
Yep.
correct, the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
My, how time flies. Okay.
It does. And we'll go ahead and do your report now, Meredith.
Sure. Included in your packet were a couple of informational pieces. One of those was an update from the state reporting on how well special education is doing, meeting initial evaluation deadlines, and we are 100% in compliance, so that was great news from
have
the
that in the
Department of
packet.
Ed. I can pass it down then if it was not included. I apologize. Second, included in your packet, and we spoke about this briefly at the last meeting, but was the report regarding our Title I on-site evaluation that occurred a couple of weeks ago, actually on March 14th, so just a week ago. But we put in that report for you. We mentioned at the last meeting a couple of the recommendations, including family support and outreach, but just want to also acknowledge the strengths that were touched upon there. Regular meetings between classroom and Title I teachers, teacher and staff commitment to the Title I program, data collection and monthly meetings about Title I children, personalization to meet each child's need, effective instruction, time management, behavior management. So really kudos to the staff in that program, and thank you to Chris Andriski and Sean Pine and Amy Rossi and all the folks who participated in that on-site meeting. And it's good feedback for us, and some things we're already working on and others we look forward to addressing moving forward.
Perfect.
Also, you may want, I'll let you speak to SST later in the meeting if you want.
Yeah.
But on that note, we have 86 students currently registered at SST for the upcoming school year. We budgeted for 75. We do expect that some of those students may not move forward. Usually we lose a few from spring to fall, but again, very strong program, and Elizabeth may say more about that a little bit later in the meeting. Read Across America was just last week as well, or the week before. It's all blurring together, especially with the snow days, which we'll come back to in a minute. The elementary school had the opportunity to do some maple sugaring, thanks to some local folks and local farmers, and tap trees right on the property. So that was a great opportunity for kids to see how things work here in New England in the spring. Unplugged Week, again, thank you to the Parents Association. Their schedule was a little discombobulated with all the events, but there was a great art show last week if you had the opportunity to see that. More events moving forward. Our competitive jump rope team presented in Boston on Friday at the National Phys Ed Conference. They were very well received and came home with big smiles, so we congratulate them as well. And I'll stop there.
All right. The next thing we have in our packet is a list of grants from NCEP. And once again, and when I'll announce the total of the grants, which is $7,148.86. And I cannot speak highly enough for this independent group of moms in the community that provide us with a lot of resources for our schools and for individual teachers in our schools to help our students. And I'll just give a brief list of what they are. For Chris Andriski, he received Courageous Principals Leadership Award in an amount of $750. Congratulations, Chris. In the junior senior high, there was a $500 grant given to Mr. Foster for the 8th grade trip, so I'm sure that helped get us to that 79 number. Mr. Hayes received $750 for the weight room equipment. Ms. Gattanini got $526.43 for the Lego robotics kit. As we move towards STEM, that's a great addition to that program. Ms. O'Neill, development of the life skills program, a grant of $750. Lisa Kumpf, who's our wellness coordinator, got a grant of $750 for the for disc golf. And then at NAS, the Linda Hoppy in the food services department got $750 for students in need of breakfast. Ms. Rodier got a guest speaker for $200 grant for that. Ms. Foster, high interest, low readability textbooks, $455.58. Ms. Rodier again, snacks for homework club, $432. Ms. LeBranch, digital cameras in the amount of $750. And then Miss Miller, the 1-2 teacher, received fence supplies. And when I read this fencing supplies, I thought they were going to be fencing, but it's an actual fence for the garden club, $211. And then wobble stools for grades 1 and 2, for 1 and 2 classrooms, in $323.85. As you can see, this is a vast list of grants that this group has given our schools, and they will help a large number of our students, and I cannot thank them enough for the funds that they raise and the way that they share those funds with our students.
It's the Newmarket Community Education Partnership. It's a nonprofit. It's a group, and there's no affiliation to the district itself. It's just a group that formed, and they raise money. They have a website, and if you're inclined to donate, but they've done this for years. And I think one year they've done so much. I hate to list anything, but there was one year they gave it was almost 100 Chromebooks, something like that. So it's pretty incredible. I think they're up over 50,000 in their history of their organization.
I believe they might be over 100, actually.
Yeah, so
It's great.
It'd be great if, it's kind of a mystery to me what these folks are all about. It'd be nice to maybe meet some of them.
They've come in before. Maybe we can invite them in another time to thank them in person.
Yeah.
It's been going on for 10, 15 years now.
I would think so.
So it's a
big deal.
It's,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a
it's
large-
a substantial sum, and when Meredith tells us historically over $100,000, that's a wonderful
Yeah.
gift to our community.
It started on a kitchen table
Really?
by moms who
Really?
got together. And I don't know exactly how many years ago. I'm going to say 10 to 15. And that's what it's come to now. It's just they're able to do
Is this usual to have groups like this in towns?
Moms can do great things, though.
I would say it's not uncommon to have an education partnership organization.
That was a mom saying that.
Yes, I am.
It's not uncommon, but it certainly
sounds like a
augments the budget
PTA
in every community
Sort of
that
function.
is
no?
fortunate enough to
PTA is
have
kind
one.
of related to the school and teachers. This is not related to the district.
And it goes beyond supporting education, but supports youth in general. So they do support recreation program
Gotcha.
and
Okay.
other youth-related
Yeah.
activities.
And give the Popovich Award for community leadership.
Yeah, they give a lot of scholarships to the rec center for the camp.
It's a major group that does major things throughout our community. So, given the amount of it, I assume we have to vote on accepting these grants. I will accept a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion for Mr. Kinnison and a second from Ms. McKinney. I'll ask for any discussion. I see none, so we will proceed with vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved unanimously. Thank you very much, NCEP. The next thing on the agenda is the last day of school for staff and students, and student graduation. I'll let Meredith take that one.
So, as you might imagine, this is a hot topic, and people are anxiously awaiting information about when the last day of school will be. Newmarket's calendar, as we've discussed at previous meetings, typically has 181 days built in. State law requires a minimum of 180 instructional days or an equivalent number of hours. Our school calendar and the way we structure our school day exceeds the minimum number of hours. Although we have had 6 snow days this year, my recommendation to you would not be that we have students come to school on Monday, June 26th. Again, we discussed this at a previous meeting when we moved to the workshop day. My recommendation to you, though we had 2 additional snow days, would be that the last day of school for students remain Friday, June 23rd. Again, we don't require a waiver from the state for this because we exceed the minimum number of instructional hours. And that means that there would be 2 staff days remaining, the workshop day that we moved from March 17th, and then an additional day. I'll be working with our administrative team and the Teachers Association and the Professional Development Committee to structure that time. At the moment, one thought that I have would be to allow teachers to do some of that work more independently, submit proposals, have those approved, document the hours that they're spending on those projects, and the remaining time to be used in district collaboratively on those last days of school.
So if we have a couple more snow days, what happens?
Well, the good news is we still exceed the state's minimum number of instructional hours. So I feel very confident, even if we were to have 4 more, and frankly we can't go beyond June 30th, that even if we were to have 4 more snow or flood or what so
Don't
help
say
us
it.
days, that we would exceed the number of hours at both the elementary and the junior, senior high levels and would be able to maintain that last day.
So Meredith, can we table this pending good behavior? We can kind of hold it over their heads for a little.
Well, I'd love to say yes, but there are a lot of folks waiting on an answer to this. A related piece of this also is about graduation. Our graduation date is built into the calendar. Yes, Julia will want to weigh in on this. It is built into the calendar for June 9th. Now, by law, seniors can go to school no fewer than 5 days or 30 hours less than everyone else. If we hold their graduation date on June 9th, which I will return to in just a second, that means that we have to find some way for them to make up 5 days or 30 hours. Now, we looked into the possibility of moving graduation. That could not be done without some significant additional expense because of the rentals that we take care of to provide seating and
Project
platform
graduation,
stages,
there's
project graduation. There's a lot wrapped up in that. So Chris Mazzoni, Chris Andriski, and I have started a conversation. That conversation will be continuing, but our recommendation to you, and we'll make this formally at the next meeting with further details, but will be to maintain graduation on Friday, June 9th, with some provision for the seniors to do some work between now and then. And that could involve a combination of things. We're talking about some creative ways to accomplish that, but also satisfy the legal requirements for their education.
So tonight we'll focus on just the last of school day, final school day for everyone, and then you'll come back to us on the 6th with details
further
of it.
details.
Okay.
Yes, I don't expect that we will need your approval to hold that date, but we may ask for it to be safe.
Okay. I seek a motion to approve June 23rd as the last day of school for Newmarket.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I almost forgot. On a motion, but from Mr. Zink and a second by Ms. Kennison. Ms. Kennison,
Ms.
you would be
McKinney.
Ms. McKinney.
Doing great. You're doing great.
Okay, I'll make it. I moved that we vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously.
So now, do we get to definitely state graduation's June 9th? Because have we?
Graduation is June 9th. Julia, can you carry that information back? So, in all seriousness, we will send a notice home to families across the district tomorrow with the information about the last day of school. I will tweet it tomorrow.
The next item is, now that we've moved from the facilities conversation, we need to move to a building committee conversation. So we need to dissolve the facilities committee in its current form.
That's correct. The charge of the Facilities Committee was essentially exactly what it did, to put together a proposal, ultimately to move forward to voters, and that task has been completed. We'll talk about in a minute the next phase of this work, which would be to form a building committee. But in order to move into having a building committee, you first need to dissolve your Facilities Committee as it existed.
Sad, Michael.
Talk to his wife.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's a good reason for us to dissolve it because we have something else to move on to at this point. So again, wholeheartedly thank each and every member of that committee from beginning to end for all the hard work and hours to get us to this point. And now I will, if there's any, I will seek a motion to dissolve the Facilities Committee.
You make it.
I make a motion to dissolve the Facilities Committee.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Thank you.
Now,
On a motion from Mr. Zink and a second from Ms. McKinney, I move to a vote for the dissolution of the Facilities Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sadly and happily unanimously done. Now, Meredith, you want to talk about the building committee and what that will entail, and we can talk about creating that and moving forward with that.
So my recommendation to you would be that that you authorize the chair to work with perhaps me and Mike on developing a charge for the building committee, but essentially that task is to guide us through the building process over the next couple of years. So that committee would be involved in some of the decision-making about things as small as what color paint goes on the walls, but also in the larger decisions around some of the scheduling pieces, giving us input into material selection, helping us work through a decision should there be something slotted to happen that needs to change for whatever reason. So it will be an important job. It is a job that will last a bit longer. This process is a longer process. The day after the vote, I had an email from the architect with the schedule of the next set of dates. So there's no rest for the weary, and there's plenty of work to do. So, we'll begin with looking at schematic designs. We're already scheduled for meetings with faculty, but there's a design development process based on the input from both the faculty and the committee through that process. Then you get into cost estimating, then we do any refinements to those plans, then you go back out, things will go out for a bidding process, and then ultimately we'll begin the construction phase. So,
Yeah, I suspect the heavy lifting is going to be from now until the bid.
I would agree.
The bidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say from, mid to late April until sometime this summer, late summer.
I would just caution us to be very careful on the scope of this committee's work, because with the expectation that we get the same kind of participation, I think is, it may occur, but it may not too. And my suggestion is, when we look at this committee, are we looking at a committee that's what you said a moment ago, which is getting down to the detail of things like colors and so forth? Or are we looking more at a committee that's looking at 10,000 feet at, whoops, the budget is headed in the wrong direction, or the right direction. One of the participants in the process isn't living up to our expectations. And I think they're two very, very different things, and I'm not, yes, I am. I guess I'm more of the strategic belief that community members should be doing the more strategic stuff. Vendor performance, clerk of the works performance, schedules, budgets. That's just my thought.
And again, my request would be for the board to authorize a couple of members to sit with me between now and the next meeting to draft that charge. I have some samples from different communities and what they've charged their building committees with to give us a template, but that would be my request.
Mike, I would like for you to serve on that, if you would be so willing.
Yeah, me too.
And I will as well, if that's okay. So we can get that moving forward. I think that's very important for us to have that, and then bring it back here if we can, so we can all talk about it and make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and I would also say, you know, we're putting it out there now that we're going to be seeking members to serve on that committee. And the full charge will hopefully be determined at the April 6th meeting, and then you'll want the opportunity to appoint members, I would think, at the April 20th meeting, just to keep us kind of on track.
Okay.
So we'll want to get that notice out. Again, we're putting it out broadly now, but we'll want to put that out to the community.
So once we
seeking
get the
interested
scope,
volunteers.
once we get the scope done, we'll put that out for requests for volunteers after it's approved here, and we'll take it from there.
And I think at the same time, and it goes along with scope, but making sure that we put together a building committee responsibility that's not so overwhelming that it's overwhelming. Because it's a three-year deal, right? So if we're going to have meetings every 2 weeks, that's a big commitment for somebody for the next 3 years. So I'm sure you
Yeah,
guys
I would
will.
agree with Mike that the heavy lifting will be between sort of now and early fall, late summer, early fall. But then there will be ongoing meetings through the construction phase, probably not every 2 weeks, most likely on a monthly basis to sort of preview the month schedules and look at where we are with events. But there could be, you know, a need to pull the group together for something that emerges.
And it just from my knowledge, Meredith, at what point do we determine who the clerk of the works is in that hiring process and all of that? Where does that fall in the process?
Yeah, I mean, again, typically that's something we probably will be looking at late fall, early winter.
Okay.
Around the same time that we're putting the projects out to bid, we'll probably be seeking clerk of the works services.
Okay.
That's, at least that's the best guidance I've received to date. That could change.
Any other thoughts about that?
I would just add that we obviously have a tremendous pool from the existing, facilities committee, and would certainly open it up if anybody wants any more, of their weekends and nights taken up. I'm sure there's some of you who'd like to see it through as well, but some of you may have fatigue, which is also okay. So, but we'll figure it out. We'll tell you what you're going to sign up for, and if you sign up for it, and maybe in a couple of weeks or so, maybe at the next meeting, and so people can look at it and see if it fits their schedules. So.
All right, moving on. We still have our continuing items still here. Are there any updates on shared services at all?
I would just say, again, that the Director of Facilities position is posted. I believe that posting is active through pretty close to the end of this month, and then the interview process will begin, and again, that's led by the town administrator.
And I know that Lisa started with her town work at the beginning of this month, so that is happening too.
Yeah, so on the heels of that facility discussion, for those who might not know, we've been talking about it now for some time of a joint facilities director between the school and the town. It just makes sense. I mean, especially when we're embarking on a project with a school like we are right now, to have a person who's dedicated to making sure that the buildings are being taken care of. That will become critical, even more so once this project is done. But not only of the school buildings of the town, we have a lot of overlapping needs, if you will, and to have somebody focused on the needs of all the town's buildings and the school buildings it just makes sense. It's a money saver by far in the long run to have that type of person. So that's what we're talking about with a facilities director.
I also talked, I guess it was on voting day, with Steve Fournier, and he let me know that they're going to be requesting somebody from the school board to serve on the hiring committee, and I would be pleased to do it if the board would like me to do that.
I'm sure Meredith will keep us up to date on that, Al. You can definitely serve on that. Anything else on facilities, Mike, tonight? We seem to have hit.
Yeah, nothing that we haven't already mentioned.
All right. Communication, I don't have anything else. Meredith, do you have any communication pieces?
No, other than I had the privilege of sharing some thank you messages from students and staff with members of the school board and members of the facilities committee on Friday. But in case you couldn't tell from those, and some of those are posted on our website as well, they were the outcome of the vote was a huge morale boost for students and members of our staff, and they wanted to share their appreciation with all of you for all of the efforts, and certainly to voters for the support.
Those were great to see.
Yeah, those are really neat.
They were. The next thing I'm going to do is seek approval of the minutes from the March 9th meeting, both public and non-public. Did anyone see anything?
I was here for the last one, so I have to abstain.
You will be abstaining.
I'll make a motion to approve the school board meetings from March 9th, 2017.
Second.
Any discussion? Any amendments of any kind? I move to vote on the school board meeting minutes, both in public and non-public, from March 9th, 2017. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Abstention.
Abstention.
So we have
301.
301. Thank you, Meredith. And do we need to address this?
We do.
One thing that I just saw in my pile is a field trip request for the kindergarten to go to the New England Aquarium on April 7th, 2017. Do you guys have this in your packets?
Yeah.
And it's my understanding that this is a fairly typical trip for the kindergarten. It is because it is out of state, it requires board approval, even though it's happening on a school day.
And it says that it ties into curriculum units for penguins, life in the ocean, city, and multiple other units. So they're covering a lot on their day down to Boston. I
Is
think
a whole unit dedicated to penguins?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's a big.
Wow.
So
Maybe I'll
moved.
go.
I seek a second for the motion from Ms. McKinney.
Second.
Motion for Ms. McKinney, second for Mr. Zink. Is there any discussion of this kindergarten field trip to the New England Aquarium?
The only thing I would say is these have come up in the past, and one of the things that's troubled me a little bit is we've got a list here of chaperones who the school board is approving this, given that's blank. In the future, I'd like to know who's going to do the.
I mean, I don't know how we can handle that, because logistically, they won't solicit the chaperones until the approval has come. So they can't tell us at this point who, can they, Meredith?
Okay, then take it off.
Yeah, I mean, so that piece of the form typically is used for sort of internal approval, so the principal signs off on that, and again, in the case of out-of-state trips, I would
That's
also
fine.
duplicate sign.
Yeah, that's fine.
But for the benefit of both the board and the public, all of our volunteers have to have been through a screening background check process in order to be eligible.
Okay.
And they are typically parents of students at the grade level.
That's fine.
In the case of grade level trips.
That's a good point, though, Al. Moving to the vote on a motion from Ms. McKinney, second from Mr. Zink. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0.
Thank you.
And the last thing, Al, the manifests.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest, there's no payroll manifest this week, of $114,786.65. I'm not sure why there's no payroll manifest.
I think we had to sign it last week.
Off week.
Second that motion.
On a motion for Mr. Zink and a second for Mr. Kennison, I move to vote to approve the manifests in the amount listed by Mr. Zink. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. Now we'll move into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, 2A.
Which is,
Thank you, everybody.
Which is what?
Dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
We do.
We need a roll call vote. And we need a motion to go into non-public?
Need a motion?
We need a motion to go into
so
non-public.
moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Zink, second by Ms. McKinney. Roll call vote, Mr. Kennison.
Yes, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
4-0 and 2. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you. You want to call that?
All right, we're off.
She shut us up.